We have seen a lot of inefficiencies and rising debt within public utilities in Africa. Why? Because we do all the infrastructure investment and then we ask, let's say, a company like KPLC to now connect those individuals. And the KPLC has a running cost to be able to maintain those assets. But the revenue that is coming from those people is very limited. We can connect 300 million people, mission 300, or all the 600 unelectrified populations. But Tobias, we need to be turning all of this into actual opportunities.
What progress do you see in terms of driving that mindset shift?
The future is already here. We also have to admit that there's some progress that is happening. It may not be as fast as we want it to be, but there's a proverb in West Africa where I come from that movement is movement. Speed doesn't always matter.
Welcome to Sustainably Speaking Africa, a podcast about reshaping narratives around sustainability and climate action in Africa. This podcast is brought to you by the Kenya Climate Innovation Centre and is made at Semabox. Join us for this and other episodes as we talk to industry leaders, frontline communities, and the innovators who are accelerating the progress towards a greener, sustainable future.
Hi, Emmanuel. It's been a while. The last time we met was, I think it was in Kitui.
Kitui, yes, I remember.
During the initial phase for a solar demonstration farm.
Yes.
That CLASP is doing the support of CLASP with the Kenya Climate Innovation Centre and REREC.
Yeah.
And the site has since been built and ready to go.
Yeah, I think I saw some pictures this week or last week from our team who was there, and it's just a fantastic work.
Yeah.
And which really shows the value of partnership and collaboration, especially in the sector. And the collaboration with you, I think, is one thing that we value so much, and we really want to expand with yours and definitely all other like-minded organizations within the sector. So happy to be here and to speak with you and see, for example, how, for example, as Africans, young men in the sector, we can really amplify the issues around climate, energy, and how we can transform that into opportunity for the continent.
Absolutely. We'll be talking a bit more on that in terms of, partnerships, innovative partnerships for that matter, that can be harnessed in this space. But just to kick us off in this conversation, I was telling you earlier that I was reading one of your reports on the missing piece of energy access. And when you talk about energy access, especially in the African context, it's almost always discussed in the context of infrastructure, in the context of mini grids, in the context of extending grids and all that. CLASP argues that that is not enough, that there's another component in terms of appliances and in terms of productive use. Break that down to us.
So I'm not going to bore you with the realities around energy access in Africa.
Yeah.
I think almost all of us have grown up in communities, villages, before maybe even coming to the cities.
Yeah.
And to a very large extent, all of us have experienced the realities of what it is like to use kerosene lanterns, and your mother or your parents or even yourself, you're in the kitchen, and then you have the soot that is coming out of that. And we've spent quite some time in the energy sector. I have, at least this year, doing like 15 years already in the energy space. The reality is that when governments and development partners started to address the energy access challenge, it was viewed a lot from an infrastructure perspective.
Yeah.
Let's get electricity poles. Let's get distribution lines. Let's build more power plants and transport and distribute this electricity into communities. So there were a lot of rural electrification programs that was being run with support of the World Bank across multiple countries in sub-Saharan Africa. And the main goal then, as I said, was let's get infrastructure out there and think about the usage later, the economic opportunity part later. But what that has produced is that it has really produced two things. Number one, we get to a point where we have seen a lot of inefficiencies and rising debt within public utilities in Africa. Why? Because we do all the infrastructure investment and then we ask, let's say, a company like KPLC to now connect those individuals. And the KPLC has a running cost to be able to maintain those assets. But the revenue that is coming from those people is very limited. So that is translating into some form of like debt, lack of profitability of these public utilities, right? So there was no conscious effort around consuming the power, consuming the electricity. How do we design jointly such that once we are taking the infrastructure to these communities, we are also looking at the fact that this power needs to be consumed. So electrons are just electrons. They're just flowing through electricity lines and all of that. If they are not consumed, if they are not turned into something else, opportunities are not advanced. So the way to make this electricity, all these energy access conversations become areas of opportunity, especially for the rising unemployment in Africa, the young people in Africa, to turn all these investments into that is the fact that we're also focusing on how to turn electrons into opportunity. And one of the ways we've argued in that particular paper is that appliances are the lowest hanging fruit of turning electrons into opportunity, either at the household level or at the small business level or even at the bigger economic level. So let me just break it down a little bit for you. So at the household level, you have electricity. Without, let's say, the bulb, without, let's say, the electric fan, without, let's say, the kettle, the blender, quality of life does not necessarily improve. It still remains a little bit at the rudimentary level. So to improve also the adaptive capacity of households, there's a lot of heat stress in a lot of countries while they have electricity. How about we turn this electricity using fans to reduce the heat stress around us? That's why we are talking about improving the adaptive capacities of individuals. Then we are looking at adaptation, climate change adaptation in that particular case. For small businesses, you have electricity, you use appliances, you transform raw materials or that electricity into now what? Products that can be packaged and sold. Then we are looking at income growth. At the bigger industrial economy level, if we provide enough electricity, we're able to look at manufacturing through appliances, industrial level grade appliances. Then we are transforming our economies. So all this is to say that, yes, infrastructure is key and critical and important, but it must be matched with an aggressive program jointly, which also looks at the demand side, consumption, because the demand side, consumption has multiple benefits. To the utility, that now gets more revenue from consumption. To the individual household, that builds, improves its adaptation. To the small businesses. And then overall, at the bigger economic level, we are looking at income growth. We are looking at jobs. And these are the things that African governments or developing governments are focused on. Jobs, income growth, right? So it is very important. Let's match and invest equally. So we're getting loans from the bank or from other development partners. We should design programs such that it is not only infrastructure dominated, but infrastructure and demand. So supply and demand side needs to be what? Put together, designed together from the word, from the get-go. It shouldn't be an afterthought. Otherwise, we keep getting into this cyclical issue of infrastructure that is not consumed. And then we have all this debt. We're not taking advantage of the opportunities that electricity or energy access is bringing to the continent. So we can connect 300 million people, mission 300, or all the 600 unelectrified populations.
Yeah.
But Tobias, we need to be turning all of this into actual opportunities for jobs, for incomes. And that's the only way that we can turn the tide of the looming unemployment and the chaos that could bring in a lot of African countries.
So a very radical mindset shift is required in that regard, from just infrastructure to productive use and the potential of efficient appliances. What progress do you see in terms of driving that mindset shift, especially for policymakers, and where they need to plug in terms of making sure that the future you're talking about is achievable?
So I said the future is already here.
Yes.
And there is, we also have to admit that there's some progress that is happening. It may not be as fast as we want it to be, but there's a proverb in West Africa where I come from that movement is movement. Speed doesn't always matter.
Movement is movement.
Yeah. Speed doesn't always matter. And that is to say that we're already seeing some progress. Policymakers, development partners are already thinking about this and are already implementing some of these changes. So we're seeing programs in Nigeria, like the World Bank funded DARES program. In Nigeria, that's been implemented by the Rural Electrification Agencies, that has also integrated a key component around productive uses of the energy infrastructure that is being funded through that program. Key part of the Ascent program, the regional Ascent program, also a very key component of this demand side conversations. So it is very important that a radical shift is needed. But some of that is already happening. We need to find ways of how to scale those conversations, that it becomes a norm. A norm such that it is not only at the programmatic level, that, okay, we designed a 5-year World Bank program, we got the money for it, and then at the end of the 5 years, then the conversation dies down. But it becomes a systemic tool at the planning divisions of ministries of finance, right? And then the right capacities are built at these ministries to provide ongoing support to government policy making, ongoing support to small businesses, ongoing support to productive use appliance distributors, right? So we need to have this as something that is ongoing and becomes a mindset that is across the ministries. Because when you also look at productive uses of electricity, it cuts across several ministries. You're looking at agriculture. You're even looking at health, education, right? You're looking at trade. You're looking at finance. So there should be not only at the Ministry of Finance, but across ministerial collaboration around these issues around electricity productivity, right?
You've spoken quite a bit on what needs to be done on the demand side, whether it is innovation, whether it is consumption models and all that. The report you are referring to, there were quite some interesting figures, and I just want to make sure that I get it right. CLASP estimates that about $38 billion is needed globally in public investment by 2030 to close the appliance gap, and about 40% of that is needed in the African continent. But the more interesting bit is that 88% of that is going to consumer confidence in terms of affordability. And I've seen reports about the concern that, adoption of electricity for productive use is still slow. So how do we make a case for that level of subsidy that is required to consumer confidence, while also, proving that this is an investable sector? Just some thoughts on that.
So let me give you a classic example. You see, when we build roads, which is the infrastructure, the typical analogy around infrastructure is that you build roads and then we pay to use the service, which is we pay tolls to use the road. So that's a service that the road provides us. But most importantly, nobody asks, let's say, the user to pay for the road. We build airports. What you pay for is the use of the airport. So
Yeah.
somebody invests into the infrastructure, and that's
Yeah.
usually like the role of public finance to invest into this infrastructure, and then users can be supported now to use the service of that. So that also reduces around the cost of service, the cost of using. Okay. Now, if the goal here is to achieve what you call the real universal access, which is the supply side
Yeah.
matched with demand side.
Demand side, yeah.
We also have to understand that if you segment markets, as a business person, you segment markets based on several factors. You can use affordability to segment your market and where to really operate from. In doing that, you realize still when you segment the market, there will be others that will be left behind. And that is where public policy and financing comes to close that affordability or gap, which limits access for the vulnerable.
Yeah.
Okay. Number two, because most of these appliances that we are seeing are very new. You look at solar milling machines.
Yeah.
You are looking at rice husk shredders. You are looking at honey extractors. These are emerging appliances, right? To prove consumer confidence in these appliances, you need standards to ensure that, okay, somebody tests these appliances, somebody provides some R&D support to these manufacturers to produce these appliances, test them in the field, and give some form of quality mark to it. On the other side, because of the stage of growth, usually the cost to acquire or the end user price for most of these appliances is quite high. So we need to bring in some form of catalytic financing, philanthropic financing to close this affordability gap, to allow these businesses to grow as well, increase in volumes, increase manufacturing, where unit prices could also start dropping. So a large part of that money will go to do this work, improve consumer confidence, standards, end user subsidies to close that affordability gap, which is needed. Subsidies in itself, this is a very thorny subject in the sector.
Yeah.
But subsidies in itself, when it's properly directed, works. Most of the
What does proper direction look like?
That's an important question, and the verdict is still out there. Basically, targeting is very key. Okay, subsidies need to go and target the right recipients. So if you do like a generic sector-wide subsidy, what you are doing is this like somebody who can afford to take their children to a public school. Then you subsidize across board. So targeting is very important in subsidy design. The level of subsidy you're providing is also very important. Number three, who receives the subsidy is also very important. Does it go to the end user or it goes to the supplier? So all these are very critical, especially when designing subsidy. Let me give you an example. We run a program called a Productive Use Financing Facility, which is funded by Global Energy Alliance. And we've been running this for over 7 years now. What we do under that program is to provide what we call procurement subsidies to productive use appliance distributors. Why? We have realized that there are a lot of RBF programs, subsidy programs in the region across Africa. But when you talk to all these companies, they'll tell you, we signed these contracts, but we still do not have money to import or to manufacture the products and sell under these RBF contracts, right? So there is an issue of working capital around there. And sometimes when you resolve this working capital, it helps the companies to have a longer runway. They can provide a lot of financing mechanisms, financing support to their users, pay-as-you-go installment payment, because you're able to resolve this long financing working capital issue for this company. So we provide them this. So that is the targeting. We are targeting a problem, which is the ability of companies to raise working capital, to finance appliances, to finance the contracts, the RBF contracts they are signing. Number two, we also realize that companies are at different stages of growth. So if you just have a blanket subsidy price or amount that, a company from Nigeria who is at at the top of his growth stage. Then there's a company in the valley of death here, and you said, okay, all of you take the same subsidy. You're not really addressing that particular issue around the capacities of the companies. So what we do is we allow the companies to tell us what is the minimum amount that will enable you to crack this market, to enable you to move into this market, to operate this market sustainably. So we do all our analysis. So what company A receives in that procurement subsidy is different from what company B receives because of what the different stages of growth in which they are, right? We still match that to performance. Performance is very key, especially when you're running a subsidy program, right? You want to see outcome. And it's not only output level. Okay, have you distributed the appliance? Yes, we pay. You want to see real outcome. Is the user really using the appliance? So you tie some of the performance payments to that particular distance. But by giving them the working capital, the procurement subsidy, a large chunk of it in advance. So we give them about 40% once we confirm some few initial documentation. So that 40% will be able to allow you to place an order with your manufacturer, right? So just to sum up that still the verdict's out there, but proper targeting of subsidy works when you do it right. Yeah,
and I know we are talking about close to, I think, a $15 billion market opportunity for appliances and even clean tech startups and even funders in the space. If African countries were, to get this right, what could this potentially mean? Whether it's for enterprise growth, for food security, for resilience in communities and all that, what could this mean?
Okay. I engage a lot with a lot of African political leaders and all of that. The key conversation everybody's talking about is we need jobs for our people.
Yeah.
We need incomes to grow. We need GDPs to grow.
Yeah.
Right? And when you come to these conversations, there are a lot of things you can do to grow incomes or create jobs. But sometimes it's very important for us to look at what is the lower hanging fruit with us. We need to be able to do like rural economic transformation. The project that we are doing in Kitui, that is trying to transform how rural agriculture is done, produced, let's say crops are produced at the rural economic level, transformed at the rural economic level, packaged and sold to create value, right? So we are trying to prove that through that demonstrator in Kitui. This is the value of some of these appliances that we're able to do, right? So once you prove that, we'll be able to set up, let's say, economic zones. If we say Kitui, this is the crops that are grown in this area. We're able to use energy to transform rural economies, right? And that is the only way. You transform economies, you grow incomes, you improve the resilience of people. Everybody gets a job, at least some income, a sustainable income to depend on. And then all the future risk around the bulging young population, the unemployment, at least I feel we'll be doing some service to the future if we start implementing a lot of these things now. So it has value. There are a lot of things we can do, but we feel that appliance productivity, energy productivity is one of the lowest hanging fruit because we have sometimes everything that we need to already kickstart that. We have the good sunshine if we want to do off-grid solutions. We have green electricity that's already produced in a lot of the African countries. So what are we waiting for?
I know we've talked about the initial focus, which was on just infrastructure. But do you see any other market failures that you think has held back the appliance access in off-grid or some of these communities? Yeah,
so in that report, as you rightly stated, some of the intervention approaches to really shift the mindset and the focus now into appliance productivity targeted some market failures that needed to be addressed. Over here, we're looking at policy and regulation. To be specific, we are looking at policy coherence. It is very important for policy to be coherent and very consistent so that if a manufacturer, if a distributor knows that in the next 5 to 10 years, we are sure that this investment is protected by a certain policy, has to be consistent, coherent, and firm. People need to be assured. Investors need to be assured.
Yeah.
So that is very key. We see this thing of tariffs on appliances or tariffs on solar products are removed, and in other regimes is brought back, and all of. So this policy coherence is very key. Another part of policy we are looking at is standards. What standards do is that standards ensure confidence in the market and also for users. When I started my career in the energy asset space, it was mostly in the off-grid space. And one of the key things everybody was talking about, solar doesn't work because that was at the start of the sector. The guy goes buy some inferior products and then it breaks down within 2 months. And you who is bringing the more potent quality product, the guy tells you, they are almost similar.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work. Then that problem was being solved when the World Bank started the Verasol program.
Yeah.
Right. And that consistently helped improved consumer confidence in solar lanterns, solar home systems. Now we have emerging technologies in these productive use areas. So we need that kind of standards for some of these emerging technologies to improve confidence. The other part of market failures that we also need to address really is about what you generally call like market development, last mile distribution, supporting small companies, small growing companies to really scale. It is very important issues around awareness raising for consumers to know what are quality products. Where can they find them? Where are the distributors? Do they have the capacity to be able to meet the demand? Financing is one key area. And over here, when we talk about financing, it could mean several forms of them, right? There are some companies that, depending on the stages of growth, will need different forms of financing. So we should be able to design financing structures that it supports companies along their journey of growth. A startup company needs some level of grants to R&D their technology, to market traction it, to prove consumer usage, and then they move into this growth. But between this startup phase, where they have proven at least the technology and some market traction, and this growth stage, that value of death, a lot of the companies die out in that value of death. So the financing that is required for that value of death, like very patient equity, provide enough venture building support to these companies, that is specific. The companies that are growth stage, you have escaped death. Now you are growing. What forms of companies? You need to be able to support them to raise their Series A's, Series B's, and all of that to grow. And there are a lot of funds that are coming up. Recently, Zafiri Fund from IFC was launched to really also support that value of debt financing for companies. So financing must be designed, specific, and tailored to the needs of companies based on their journey of growth. So there are some of the market failures that we've identified that we feel that some of this financing needs to go there to address some of this in a holistic manner. If you look at it, and it's very important to look at it as a system level holistic, addressing and the key issues around the policy, financing, standards, company support, business development, market development, so that all these things we are talking about can work holistically. We can get the impacts that we are looking for.
Now, talking about working holistically in that regard, you've mentioned what's happening on the finance bit and government bit. Is there any fundamental rethink? What funders, government, private sector, what do they need to think differently? When you think about appliance affordability, standards, consumer confidence, is that one single aspect that you think they should collectively think about differently to move the sector forward?
Look, so Pius, there's one of the things that we have found out, and this has been like a recent conversation between our team, is the fact that maybe we are not looking at appliances as also as part of critical infrastructure.
Okay.
So we feel if government So you know about the NDCs and all of that. So if you're doing NDC targeting and all of that, and you look at these appliances that are key to jobs and income, are key to utilities as part of the critical infrastructure, then the way you finance them changes, right? So that you add it to your infrastructure financing pool. Okay. So this is one of the things that we feel that this mindset shift is very important. Number two, it's not only about appliances, it's also about efficiency. The appliances need to be efficient. And over this, we need to start thinking of energy efficiency as a macroeconomic development tool. Let me break down that a little bit, spend some few minutes to talk about that. Once you have inefficient systems, you have inefficient appliances in the system that are consuming all of the energy that is coming, there is an overbloated assumption of the demand, which should not be there. Okay? What that does is that governments will now have to, based on this overbloated assumption of the demand, invest in generation capacities which we do not need if there were inefficient usage. This investment, which is not needed, could be channeled into critical investment in the development like health, schools, and all of that. And mind you, a lot of the African economies are strayed because of the high debt in the African economies. So a lot of them are not even able to borrow money internationally anymore. Okay, so we need to create a certain fiscal space. One of the ways of creating this fiscal space is actually through efficiency, through energy efficiency policies. If you create that, you're able to reduce this overbloated or assumed demand. That saving could go back into treasury for what? Reinvestment into the critical sectors. So this moves the conversation of energy efficiency from climate change department, from Ministry of Energy. It moves the conversation coordinated with other departments now to Ministry of Finance. Once Ministry of Finance, the critical ministry, is interested in this topic, all others, you realize that we are getting the right traction for this particular. And even at the household level, once you use more efficient appliances, you save. It's like cash back to the consumer. What do you do with that cash back? You invest that into your child's education. You build assets, reinvestment. So these are the two shifts of mindset that we think policymakers, the whole sector, the whole industry, all partners should start having, especially when we're talking about efficient appliances and their role, especially for incomes, for emissions reduction.
It sounds like a lot of the decisions that have been made by governments and even private sector has not been evidence informed, or is it because the data is not there, or is it because it's fragmented? What are your thoughts on that?
I would say that it could be two things that's on top of my mind. That energy efficiency or the role of, let's say, small appliances, it's usually not very tangible. You see, when you speak about energy efficiency, it's like something in the air. It's not very tangible. And that means that what politicians cannot touch and feel and promote, it lacks political will to push through some of these conversations. Right. So that is one side. Like, we're very interested in commissioning infrastructure projects and all of that. But when it comes to the efficient use of those, it's not something that is too visible, but it takes a certain mindset change. And that the political will to drive that is very limiting. But we've seen some action that's happening in certain ministries. Last year at the Africa Energy Efficiency Conference in Ethiopia, the Deputy Prime Minister of Ethiopia made this very silent point to all the ministers in the room that energy efficiency needs to be prioritized as a key mechanism for savings, for investment. And it was very insightful, very, very fulfilling to hear Deputy Prime Minister
Yeah.
of Ethiopia, make that. The other point also is that I feel we do not have enough demonstration project of that this thing can really work. So we want to see, for example, like if we take Kitui, we take another county, another country, and demonstrate that just by providing this small set of appliances, investing in this, it has over a period of time changed the economies of those localities. Then governments will start thinking very hard about it because you're seeing the real the tangibility, the touch and feel, right? So the demonstration, I think we need a few more demonstrations, especially when it comes to this energy productive use of appliances, either at the grid level or even at the off-grid level. The last point I would say is that it comes back to issues around the failures, the market failures that we mentioned, and the critical role that governments should play. We are very certain in our mind at CLASP that scale equals government. To scale a lot of these things, we need government as a partner at the table. Not after some time, at the beginning, at the ideation stage. So I keep going back to the pilot in Kitui. We're doing it with the county, right? They are seeing the results firsthand. When they are doing budget planning based on the success of that, they will say, okay, we want to replicate this into other communities within the county, right? So that is how we use a pilot to prove an idea, and then with the support of government, they're able to scale it. Either through tax financing or development financing. That is the only way to scale. To scale, we need a government on this. So these are the 3 points I feel it's a bit missing, where we are not really seeing all the impact that we want to scale. But I think we'll get there. We also need to be very hopeful and about some of these things.
All right. We're just about to wrap this up. I would love us to go on and on, but as we bring this to a close, are there any specific? You've mentioned they need to be targeted. Then we need to just not move, groping in the dark. Are there any, from your lived experience and evidence from CLASP, some appliances or productive use technologies that you see as, most productive and most transformative in the African context today?
Look, Tobias, I have a very special affinity to cooking because I was raised by a very strong woman. And most of the things I learned in life were from my mother, and I love cooking. And growing up, I saw how we, in the village back home in Ghana, we have to use this 3 stone stove. It's not even a stove. It's just 3 stones. You put firewood under it, and as kids, you have to blow the fire up with your mouth, basically. And how you go to some of the kitchens. Our kitchens were always full of soot, smoke all over the place. You are coughing. Those are times why we didn't even know that some of the allergies that I personally was suffering from were as a result of that. I only went to school, finished, and started studying, realized that all of those things were as a result of that. So I am very passionate about cooking as a key conversation and the devices that power cooking. And so that is one of the appliances that I focus on, and I think that we should do a lot more. Other access areas are advancing, electricity advancing, but cooking, it's something that is not moving very fast. We are seeing a lot of traction around it, but I think we need to do a lot more, especially the way solar home systems and lanterns were supported to scale. We need to reroute similar approach to how to scale cooking as a continuum all the way to electric cooking. And fortunately, at CLASP, we are doing something on that through our partnership with the Modern Energy Cooking Services, the MEX program, between us, Lavbrov University, and SMAP, with funding from FCDO. What we are doing is really to say, how can we, from research to scale, revolutionize the business of cooking.
Yeah.
We're looking at household, institutional, commercial cooking. So there are a lot of companies that we are supporting to be able to bring the appliances to scale. Just the same way solar home system appliances were supported to come to market and to scale. How are we supporting businesses, small companies that are in producing cooking devices? We're providing them with that value of dev support, venture building capital that will allow them to test and escape that venture building and put them into like commercial funding, right? It requires like hand-holding, providing expert support to these companies at that very stage of growth. So cooking is important to me. I want to be able to go to every home in Africa, back even in my village, where I don't want to it to be demoralizing to see, let's say, another few years to see that firewood, smoke are still in kitchen, we're still coughing, the health hazard from that. It will be very demoralizing. We want to see schools back in secondary school, boarding schools, all the cooks in this, most of them have health challenges because of all this firewood, biomass use. We want to be able to transform schools, kitchens in schools. We're doing a lot of that work already in Kenya through a partnership with companies like Kobora, Fion, that are doing that. We've done some pilots in schools like Mama Ngina, PC Primary School in Kino, in Nairobi here. So we want to see that transformation. We can't. We don't want to leave this problem for our children, our children's children, and for them to come and ask us the question, Tobias, what were you doing?
You're very passionate about cooking. I look forward to trying one of your dishes one of these fine days. As we, you've talked money, you've talked markets, you've talked mindsets. What does the future look like for you in this space?
For the future is, as you really want to taste one of my dishes, I think I want to throw a challenge to you and KCIC that we should have a cooking competition in one of our offices.
All right.
On some very advanced appliances, modern electric cooking. And that's some of the ways that we can also showcase some of this to the general public that this thing works.
Bring it on. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Tobias.
Thank you so much for your time.
All right.